Edward Norton is both a dream and a nightmare for anyone creating content about actors' careers. He has it all. Being a young prodigy who almost won an Oscar with his first film? Check. Turning down enough iconic roles to launch another Hollywood career? Definitely. Driving everyone nuts on set with his uncontrolled improvisations and cocky attitude? Yeah, that's our boy Edward. Chasing perfection, Norton tried to pick the best projects. Suspicious films he either simply rejected or tried to be the screenwriter, the editor, or even the director. Some of these projects went down the drain, but some became iconic. Let's explore Ed Norton's relentless perfectionism and how it impacted his Hollywood journey. First, Norton's projects were prime. In 1995, no one knew him, except maybe some theater freaks. But in just 1 year, Edward had 3 films released: Woody Allen's Everyone Says I Love You, Gregory Hoblet's Primal Fear, and Milos Forman's The People vs. Larry Flint. Just 1 year. First projects. What a combo. Woody Allen's movie didn't bring Norton much, but it was well received, and being in a legendary director's film was no joke. The project that straightforwardly pushed Norton to the top that year was Primal Fear. Initially, the director and producers wanted Leonardo DiCaprio for the role of Aaron, but Leo ran away to push a piece of wood under freezing Kate Winslet. Not an obvious choice at the time. Titanic is a legendary film, like now it is, but back then, the outcome wasn't so clear. Leo took the risk, and it paid off. The second option was Wil Wheaton. Back then, he was considered to be a young talent, but Wheaton chose to continue his acting classes instead of actually acting, a decision he later regretted, stating it ruined his career, and that's true. So, after that, a casting for the role of Aaron was opened, with more than 2,000 young actors participating, including Edward Norton, James Marsden, Edward Furlong, Pedro Pascal, and Matt Damon. Pedro Pascal later admitted it was his first audition. He performed like a potato sack there, so no surprise he got no offer. Matt Damon, on the other hand, desperately wanted to play Aaron, but Norton's stunning performance at the audition left Damon no chance. Realizing that insanely talented Nortons would always beat them out for prime roles, Damon and Ben Affleck decided to write their own script and cast themselves, resulting Good Will Hunting. Choosing Norton for the role of Aaron, Studio Paramount signed a contract with Edward for 3 movies, a fact worth keeping in mind. Primal Fear earned $100 million at the box office, with a budget of just 30. Even more amazing is that it collected awards like crazy, and Norton was praised the most. He won 9 different awards for his performance, including a Golden Globe. Edward was also nominated for an Oscar for this one as the Best Supporting Actor, but that year, Cuba Gooding Jr. was luckier. As for The People vs. Larry Flint, the film flopped at the box office, but come on, it's Milos Forman. The only Forman film that was somewhat a financial success was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. His other works rarely made money, but they consistently made critics lick their lips with satisfaction and ask for more. So, being in a Forman movie was an honor either way. Norton knew this, which is why he was so eager to participate in the first place. In fact, due to this film, one of Norton's future iconic roles happened, but more on this later. Norton took his time choosing the next project before discovering American History X. New Line Cinema purchased the script from David McKenna and was searching for a director. They eventually settled on Tony Kaye, who had nothing under his belt besides music clips and commercials. At first, the studio wanted Joaquin Phoenix for the role of Derek, but after taking a peek at the script, Phoenix freaked out and vanished with the speed of prime flash. Unable to find anyone else, Tony Kaye was eventually told to cast Edward Norton. Edward fell in love with the script and immediately agreed. Kaye, however, was not a fan of this choice, but no one asked his opinion on the matter. The studio was thrilled to have a rising star Norton on board, so Kaye had rather to deal with it or to go back shooting ads. Kaye delivered his first cut of the movie on time, and test screenings were held. What happened next is debatable. Some sources say the studio asked Kaye to cut down the film's runtime, and Kaye went bananas. Others, that the studio loved the cut, but Kaye himself decided to re-edit the movie because, why not? Either way, Norton was unable to calmly observe the director's brain rot, so he interfered in editing. This led to catfights between Norton and Kaye. In the end, Norton prevailed. His cut was approved by the studio, and Kaye was furious. He claimed it was no longer his work now, just some teary, endless hugs nonsense, and that Norton's edits had shifted the focus entirely to Derek, which wasn't planned. The studio said to Kaye, fine, we give you several weeks to re-edit the film if you want. Instead, the director went to the press and publicly crap-talked New Line Cinema and that bastard Norton.
Nice.
Filed a $275 million lawsuit and demanded his name to be removed from the credits. Being too busy with these super important activities, Kaye never produced a new cut, and Norton's version was released. American History X collected $24 million, costing only $4 million less than that. But in this case, the box office didn't matter. The movie became one of the most iconic in cinema history. Norton, who stayed silent during the public brawl, was once again showered with nominations and awards, including another Oscar, for Best Actor this time. However, he lost once again. Roberto Benigni got the prize. Many critics still consider that decision one of the biggest Oscar injustices. Interestingly, Tony Kaye eventually made peace with himself, apologized to everyone, and was happy his name remained in the credits. For nearly 5 years now, he's been working on a sequel titled African History Why.
Stop it. Get some help.
But whether it will ever be released remains a mystery, as enigmatic as what Kaye may have been consuming in 1998 when he created all this mess. Releasing a new film for him may be really problematic, as after this story, when studios hear Kaye's name, they start to massage their foreheads like crazy, seeking some mental comfort. For guaranteed mental comfort, I would recommend massaging the like and subscribe button. While Norton was mad for American History X, Matt Damon was building his career off Edward's rejections. Norton passed on Saving Private Ryan, being too busy with American History X, and Damon quickly took the role. The same happened later with the talented Mr. Ripley. In 1998, Norton was cast in Rounders, but since there was only one Edward Norton to go around, Damon managed to participate in this one as well. On this project, Norton acted modestly, likely because there was one massive and menacing producer involved who wouldn't have tolerated any Norton-like dudes interfering. The movie grossed $22 million on a budget of $12. That was far less than expected. After playing poker in Rounders, Norton was hyped for Milos Forman's Man on the Moon. But between Norton and Jim Carrey, the studio chose Carrey, seeing him as a bigger box office draw. However, Carrey's box office draw couldn't overcome Forman's flop habit, and the film bombed. Norton also wanted to work with Martin Scorsese on Bringing Out the Dead, but Martin decided Nicolas Cage was a better choice. Observing Norton hanging around, producers tried to put him to use and offered a role in The Runaway Jury. Norton cringed and ran to David Fincher's project. About some club nobody was supposed to talk about. Fight Club could have become something completely different. At first, the producers wanted Peter Jackson for the project, but Peter was about to begin his long marathon with hobbits through New Zealand's bushes. Bryan Singer and Danny Boyle were considered as well, but Singer ignored the book, and Boyle was busy filming DiCaprio on the beach. Only after that, the producers remembered Seven and David Fincher. Fincher loved the book, but the idea of working with 20th Century Fox made him sick, as his disgusting experience on Alien 3 set didn't slip his mind. We have a video about this disaster. Check it out later. Eventually, the producers arranged a meeting between Fincher and the head of the studio. They kissed, hugged, and forgot everything, so Fincher was now in. Pretty hard to imagine anyone other than Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and Helena Bonham Carter as Mighty Three now. But at one point, it could have been Russell Crowe, Matt Damon, and Reese Witherspoon. Witherspoon, in fact, was the studio's first choice for Marla, but she said the project was gross and refused. Courtney Love, on the other hand, was eager to join. Given her wild image, casting her seemed obvious, but that's exactly what Fincher didn't like. He wanted some minds to be screwed and chose Bonham Carter. Until then, she had mostly appeared in sipping tea at 5 o'clock costume dramas. The producers considered not only Matt Damon, but also Sean Penn for the role of the narrator. Fincher insisted on Norton, however. It wasn't Primal Fear or American History X that convinced him. Oh no, Fincher was impressed by Edward and The People vs. Larry Flint. Fincher and the actors later said Fight Club was a film on a serious topic made by goofballs. According to the crew, the production was full of fun. One famous example is the scene where Norton's character punches Brad Pitt in the ear. That punch was real, painful, and completely unexpected for Pitt. Norton was encouraged to do it by Fincher, who loved the result and kept it in the movie. Fincher likes to torture actors on set, and if you want a video about him, 5,000 likes under this video will make it happen. Norton didn't touch the script much this time, but managed to add something here and there, mostly to polish his character. Brad Pitt did the same, as did the producers and Fincher. For instance, Fincher decided to rewrite the book's original ending. In the novel, the narrator fails and ends up in a nut house. Chuck Palahniuk, the author of Fight Club, loved nearly all the changes, admitting the film greatly improved the story. Together, Pitt and Norton earned $20 million for their roles, with Norton having $2.5 million from this solid sum, a record for him back then. But let's admit, Norton had a rougher time during filming. Fincher's vision required Pitt's character to get more and more Chad as the movie progressed, while Norton's was turning into Gollum, as he later said. So, while Pitt was told to enjoy nice food, hit the gym, and tan regularly, Norton had to stick to a strict diet, smoke on set, and avoid sleeping. Due to that, all the muscles Edward gained for filming in American History X were instantly gone. When Fight Club had its first screenings, everyone was thinking like, how do you promote such a movie? David Fincher believed it deserved a unique marketing campaign that would mess around with consumerism. But the studio that day showed real smart thinking and started to sell Fight Club, focusing on punches and Brad Pitt's naughty face with a chipped tooth. What Fincher thought when he saw his movie being advertised during WWE and UFC events is unknown, but it surely contained high F-words concentration. This brilliant marketing strategy most likely led to Fight Club's box office failure. Despite a $63 million budget, the film barely made over 100. Promotion attracted wrong people who expected smacks in the face and maybe some badass Pitt's muscle pumps. But the movie was obviously not about that. Well, not only about that. In the future, Fight Club became one of the most influential movie icons, bringing the studio truckloads of cash from DVD sales. So, in the long run, it was all good. That's hilarious when you think about it, but Fight Club didn't get any recognition from Oscars or Golden Globe and any major awards. It only received an Oscar nomination for Best Sound Editing, and that was it. The film clearly created a buzz, judging by the number of burning butts it caused. But dozens of influential critics just skipped it or labeled crap. Save this thought for a rainy freaking day when you feel stupid or miserable. It will help, I promise. The sharpest viewers here might remember, Edward still owed Paramount 2 films under his contract, and here Norton's marathon of dodging various projects began. First, he turned down a role in U-571. Secondly, he missed American Psycho. All this to have his directorial debut, Keeping the Faith. Perhaps Norton wanted to finally participate in something that didn't have an R rating, so he decided to make such a movie himself. He approached Paramount saying, like, here's our contract, here's the script, give me the money and let's go. But Edward didn't just want to act in this film, he wanted to direct it as well, and the studio wasn't ready for such an experiment. Norton turned to Disney then, and they liked the idea. Keeping the Faith grossed $60 million on a budget of $29 and received okayish reviews from critics and audiences. As soon as Norton got off the director's chair, Paramount caught the actor halfway to some other project and reminded him of the contract. That's how Edward found himself in The Score by Frank Oz. Norton later admitted he agreed to participate only for having his name on a poster alongside Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro. The filming process was uneasy, but Norton didn't get the chance to cause any mess. Marlon Brando nailed that for him. The legendary actor would show up on set naked, called the director Miss Piggy due to Oz's participation in The Muppets, and refused to be shot by a piece of pork. As a result, Robert De Niro ended up directing most of Brando's scenes, as Brando tolerated him enough to film together, while the poor guy Frank Oz whispered instructions to De Niro through an earpiece. In the end, the film was far from a success, costing $68 million and earning only $113. In 2002, Edward Norton appeared in 4 films, and in 3 of them there was some BS. The first was the comedy Death to Smoochie, where Norton was invited by actor and director Danny DeVito. Spoiler, the movie became the first Norton's undeniable fail, perhaps even the most miserable one. Despite a solid budget of $50 million and strong cast, Death to Smoochie pissed critics off, brought Robin Williams a Razzie nomination, and performed gloriously at the box office, earning only $8 million. Next came Frida, where Norton starred alongside his then-girlfriend, Salma Hayek. They say a certain infamous producer was trying to get under Hayek's colorful skirt during filming. While the skirt kept the producer occupied, Norton felt the screenplay smelled kind of suspicious and decided to make some changes, to the point of rewriting the script to its core, as the actor later admitted. With these changes, Frida was shot, released, and performed awesome at the box office, also collecting numerous awards, with Hayek receiving an Oscar nomination even. But Norton's contribution to the script went unacknowledged, and he was not credited for his work.
Emotional, damn it!
Edward's third film of 2002 was Red Dragon. Initially, Ethan Hawke was considered, but in the end, it was Norton. He didn't particularly want to take the role, but the paycheck was too tempting, and Edward needed this money for one important thing. More on that later. Once on board, Norton traditionally felt the script needed his close attention, and immediately dived into it, making some changes. Director Brett Ratner didn't understand the move, and these two made some fuss on set. Later, Ratner said Norton's first instinct in any film is to take control and try to improve it. Both a gift and a curse, the director added. Red Dragon stayed #1 in the US box office for 3 weeks straight, and then was pushed down by A Creepy Girl from the Well. Worldwide, the film earned $210 million, costing $78 million. Looks great, you might say, but here's the thing. A year earlier, its predecessor Hannibal had earned nearly twice as much. The studio hoped for similar results here, but it didn't happen. That important thing Edward needed money for was his fourth film of 2002, 25th Hour. No one wanted to give money for this one. No one except Edward. He loved the novel of the same name by David Benioff, one of the creators of Game of Thrones series, and was eager for the adaptation to happen, so he paid for it and took a lead role. No script dramas happened on set this time, as the author of the novel, David Benioff, was participating. The film performed modestly, earning $24 million, but it had a production budget of only $5 million. Also, The 25th Hour received critical acclaim. For instance, famous critic Roger Ebert named it one of the best films of the decade. At this point, Paramount wasn't done with Norton yet. There was still a third film in his contract. Norton became a pro-dodger of projects he didn't like. He managed to avoid Collateral, Mission Impossible 3, and The Core. But the studio broke through Norton's avoidance skills by threatening him with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. And that's how Edward found himself in the Italian Job. So guess now, what did Norton hear on the first day of filming? Right, the script calling out for him, begging for some re-edits. Norton immediately obliged this call, but the studio, anticipating this, banned him from making any script changes. This caused Major Norton's butt hurt, and he decided to save the film differently. He created a stupid image for his character and completed it with an awkward puberty-like mustache. He clashed with the crew on set and improvised like crazy when no one asked for it. Most of these improvisations were cut during post-production. And surprise, The Italian Job exceeded expectations at the box office, grossing $176 million on a budget of $60 million. As a thank you gesture, the producers sent each actor a gift. Norton returned his, with a note recommending to send it to someone who actually gives a damn. Dobby Norton was now free of Paramount, and that was a plus. But his naughty behavior was acknowledged by studios, so they weren't actually eager to work with him now. Some directors still were, though, and kept inviting Edward to their projects. Ridley Scott, for instance. He cast Norton in Kingdom of Heaven in 2005. Norton agreed, but specifically wanted to play the masked character. Interestingly, some critics praised his performance here, calling it one of his best. The film flopped at the box office, however. With a hefty budget of $130 million, the movie only grossed $218 million. That barely covered marketing expenses and theater cuts. Norton's second film that year, Down in the Valley, performed even worse. 2006 was more successful for Norton. Two movies about magicians were on their way at almost the same time, The Prestige and The Illusionist. The Prestige had a bigger budget and was directed by Christopher Nolan. The Illusionist starred Norton and had Philip Glass as composer. The battle between two magicians began. The Illusionist received a limited release at first, but after 3 weeks, it expanded to a wide one and climbed to 5th place at the box office. It stayed in the top 10 for quite some time, and eventually earned around $88 million, costing $16 million. When The Prestige was released, The Illusionist immediately sank to 20th place. The Prestige had a much stronger opening, knocking The Departed from the top spot. But then The Departed reclaimed its position, and The Prestige quickly dropped off the top 20. It collected $110 million. It's more than The Illusionist, true. But The Prestige cost $40 instead of $16. So The Illusionist was more profitable overall. That year, comparisons between these two were frequent, and back then, audiences favored Norton's tricks. Time showed the winner here, though. The Prestige now has a reputation as one of Nolan's most awesome films and is now considered a masterpiece, while The Illusionist, well, it exists. Norton's second film that year was The Painted Veil. Norton's involvement in the project started back in 1999, but the production stuck. It was an adaptation of the novel by the top-tier English writer Somerset Maugham, and the scriptwriter was Ron Nicewanner, responsible for Philadelphia. However, Norton felt an English literary icon and an Oscar-winning screenwriter just weren't enough. So, of course, he got involved in the scriptwriting again. Edward was also a producer in this one and had considerable influence. After Nicole Kidman dropped out, he pushed for Naomi Watts to take her place. Watts, in turn, brought along her future husband, Liev Schreiber, to join the cast. The original novel was heavily altered in the adaptation, so much actually that the core message of the book was almost entirely lost, but another one appeared instead. This caused a lot of debate among critics. Some praised the movie's interpretation, while others stated it was a teary turd wrapped in the golden packaging of an English classic. Still, the film generally received positive reviews and is genuinely a pretty good one. The Painted Veil was obviously intended to be an awards contender, but not this time. Major awards ignored it, except for composer Alexandre Desplat, who won a Golden Globe for his score. Financially, the movie was a fiasco, earning only $27 million on a budget of $20. Norton's last 5 films were box office disappointments, except for The Illusionist, of course. And there were rumors about his naughty behavior circling, but he was still a star. So, at some point, Marvel Studios showed up at Edward's door. They desperately needed a new Hulk. After the movie with Eric Bana, no one wanted to touch Hulk even wearing gloves. But Norton was a huge fan of Hulk. He saw something grand in the character, imagining him like a modern-day Prometheus. And when Marvel offered Edward the role, he didn't refuse, but negotiated for creative control over the script. What could possibly go wrong here? Ed Norton plus scriptwriting authority is no joke. According to Tim Roth, every filming day began with Norton rewriting something. Roth would prepare for one scene only to find out it was changed 10 times already. All that because the original didn't align with Norton's dark Prometheus Nolan's Batman-like vision. Despite his efforts, Norton wasn't credited as a writer, again. The Writers Guild of America dismissed his contributions as kids' stuff, claiming that rewriting dialogue isn't enough to have any screen credit. The fact that he had also added and removed entire scenes and characters didn't impress the Guild either. The Incredible Hulk was released in 2008 and debuted top 1 at the domestic box office. In the second week, however, it was pushed by the action comedy Get Smart, and in the third by heavy hitters like Wall-E and Wanted with Angelina Jolie. The movie quickly left the top 5 and eventually fell to 9th place. In the end, it grossed $264 million, costing $150, making it the only financial disappointment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe until Black Widow and Eternals years later. But the real drama was ahead. To be more exact here, when Norton's face was absent from the Avengers. At first, rumors said Edward had demanded all the money in the world, while Ruffalo asked for a few packs of peanuts. Then Kevin Feige decided to deliver some extra butthurt to Norton's fans and claimed it wasn't about money, but Marvel's high standards of creativity and collaboration. Norton countered, saying Kevin's statement was just a bunch of crap, and the reason was indeed monetary. He'd asked for a lot, and Marvel wasn't willing to pay. The truth, as usual, probably lies somewhere in the middle. If The Incredible Hulk had been a bigger box office hit, Marvel might have paid Norton what he wanted and given him more creative control over the script. They did that with Robert Downey Jr., but Hulk was a flop. Facts. Anyway, Norton doesn't like to talk about this project much now, and Marvel in general, but when he is talking, it feels cringy, like he's discussing an embarrassing rectal itch or something. Hulk's failure, and another one, Pride and Glory, shook Edward's career. Curious thing here, Nick Nolte was about to star alongside Norton in Pride and Glory, but suddenly Nolte said he's sick and ran away. Later, he admitted his health was totally fine, and he vanished because of Norton's cocky attitude. Jon Voight accepted this challenge instead and later confessed it was really a harsh one. After this flops parade, Norton retreated into smaller movies like Leaves of Grass and Stone, and even appeared in a tiny role in Ricky Gervais's The Invention of Lying. None of these films earned decent money, though it's unclear if they were ever really expected to. In 2012, Norton participated in The Bourne Legacy. He wasn't allowed anywhere near the script this time, so Edward simply did his acting job. Despite being a franchise blockbuster, the film underperformed, earning $276 million and costing $125 million. A smaller movie with Norton that year collected much more than expected, Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom. With a $16 million budget, it made $68 million, and that was a solid success. As was Norton's friendship with Wes Anderson in general. Anderson is known for casting a consistent set of actors in his films, and Norton became part of this lucky group. In 2014, he also starred in The Grand Budapest Hotel, which earned a truckload of awards and $175 million at the box office with a budget of only $25 million. And you know what? There are no signs of Norton messing with Anderson's scripts. There's a theory that Edward feels fine about the movie if he truly trusts the director's vision. So maybe, just maybe, Wes Anderson's talents gave Norton no reason to doubt, and here the script desperately calling out for him. Same with Alejandro Iñárritu, whose film Birdman was released nearby the Grand Budapest Hotel and collected maybe even a bigger truckload of awards. Norton's role was significantly larger here, and his performance was widely praised, with many critics noting he portrayed a kind of sort of version of himself, much like Michael Keaton actually, so everyone applauded the film's meta-irony. For Birdman, Norton received his third Oscar nomination, though once again it escaped him, going to J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. Fun fact, another Hulk, Mark Ruffalo, was also up for the same award that year for Foxcatcher. Having become more associated with Auteur cinema since then, Norton suddenly stepped into mainstream Hollywood in 2016 with Collateral Beauty. The film performed decently at the box office and audiences liked it, but critics felt watching it should be claimed as a health code violation. Collateral Beauty holds a miserable 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating 3 out of 10. It became one of the most critically reviled films in Norton's career. 3 years later, in 2019, Norton directed the movie once again. Motherless Brooklyn became Edward's second directorial experience, a noir detective film where he played a fairly traditional noir character, except one nuance. This one had Tourette's syndrome. Generally, the cast in this movie were mostly Norton's friends and played on a goodwill basis, including Bruce Willis, for whom Motherless Brooklyn became the final major project in his career. Don't forget to like and subscribe to not miss an upcoming video about him. Motherless Brooklyn bombed at the box office, but there's a catch. Some of the movie's screenings took place in early 2020 when the pandemic hit, potentially affecting the financial outcome. Regarding critics, well, they didn't hate the film, but weren't particularly happy with it either. From 2020 to the present, Norton had only 3 projects, including 2 more Wes Anderson films, The French Dispatch and Asteroid City. He has also starred in Glass Onion, a Knives Out sequel. It was released on Netflix with a limited theatrical run and earned $13 million in theaters, a successful experiment, Netflix said. But this year, something potentially tasty awaits us. The biopic about Bob Dylan, A Complete Unknown, will be released in December. Norton plays a substantial role there, and most likely a dramatic one, which is rare for him recently. The involvement of director James Mangold, known for Girl Interrupted, Ford vs. Ferrari, Logan, and Identity, is also a promising sign. Edward Norton had a complex, uneasy, sometimes even frightening journey in Hollywood, but hasn't faded from the screen completely or turned into B-movie Frankenstein. The actor has a taste for quality and some top crap-proof filter that allows to avoid embarrassing nonsense. Now he participates only in something made by people he trusts and doesn't need to commit genocide against his own neurons, desperately trying to fix some crappy movie. He's choosing the roles wisely, is into environmental and humanitarian activism, spends time with his family, and lives his best life. Live your best life as well, and check out our Brad Pitt and Carl Urban video. See you in the next one. Peace.